Shalom, shalom, shalom. Giving all praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahushua Ba'ashem L'Kakodash. Giving all praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahushua Ba'ashem L'Kakodash. Greetings to the hopeful elect. Greetings to the 12 tribes of Israel scattered abroad, starting with the elect. Giving all praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahushua Ba'ashem L'Kakodash. And I'm going to entitle this video, "The Lord Did Not Come for the Gentiles." End of story. So what I did was, we know a lot of precepts, when the subject of the Gentiles, comes up, a lot of precepts come to mind. And one just came to mind just now, Isaiah 11 and 11, 10 and 11. Revelation 11, first couple of verses. Matthew 10, go not in the way of the Gentiles. So all these precepts come up, right? So I said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put in the word, I'm gonna type in the word Gentiles, and I'm just gonna modify it to the Apocrypha. Because when we want to break down, vocab Malone and these Christians, these plantation Christians, Renaissance Christians, because that's what they are. This white Christianity that you have, that Jake is leaving left and right, they're leaving it because everything's white. You know what I mean by white, Edomized. Because this American, European came from Europe. It was started in Europe. The Renaissance started in Europe and went to the Americas. That came from the so-called white men. When they came into power, they made everything look like themselves. They made the Most High look like them. They made the Messiah look like them. They made the saints, Moses, the prophets look like them. And the Israelites, the chosen people of the Most High, look like them, which is a damn lie. Now, I went to Google the other day. Let me do that again. Give me a second here. And I'm going to go into some other topics, see where the Spirit takes me. Bear me for a minute. Okay. I'll go right here. That is a quick video that I did. Let me do this. "36 minutes long. This Christian rolled up on the apostles' camp, said Jesus and got to stepping. Before he rolled up on our camp, like I said in the video, these guys, these brothers right here, these up and coming teachers, these up and coming elders, they looked at him and they pretty much came to the conclusion that he's an Edomite. You don't know he's an Edomite. You don't know he's an Edomite. You got to tell people. You got to say, look, if you're a four-parent, are you Irish? Are you Italian? Are you Portuguese? Whatever. And you had a lot of people that come out of Spain that are Israelites, because you had the Moors up there. You had Israelites all up there. You had 500 initial slaves that Cristobal Colon brought back from the Americas to Spain as going to slavery. So, of course, they spread their seed. And the scriptures say that, we are like the stars of heaven and the sands of the sea. So you're going to have Israelites looking like straight up Edomites, looking like Moabites, looking like every nation. So, I kind of did like a lamb back off of their video, because you can't just look at a guy. He looked like a Edomite. He's an Edomite. No, you got a lot of Jakes out there, dark skinned Jakes that are whose father's father might be an Edomite slave. George Washington's son, I believe his name was Ford T. Ford or something like that. I'm not gonna look for it, but they got a picture of this guy, and it looks just like George Washington, but this dude is black as tar. So George Washington laid down with one of his super black slaves, and he had woolly hair, but he kind of the features were like George Washington, and they don't want to put that out there. They don't want to put that out. They want to make the presidents, the father of our country and Abraham. They want to put him in a good light, which they all had slaves. Lincoln, I believe he had slaves too, but I know George Washington and those early devils, Madison and them, they all had slaves. And they got to go into slavery because they're Edomites. They're in power because they're Edomites. So anyway, this is what I was going to do. I'll do it this way. Google. What color were the ancient Israelites? What was the skin color of the ancient Israelites? This was put up July 24th, 2018. The ancient Hebrews were Middle Easterners, generally people originating in the part of the world are a kind of tasteful beige to pale olive rather than pasty. They're olive colored, brown, brownish, mostly dark brown to light brown or yellow brown skin tone. So let me go to the images. What color were the ancient Israelites? And you see here, okay, this first one, it comes up, undeniable full color evidence of black Israelites in the Bible. And that's an icon. All the images you see, if ancient Egyptians were black and Moses hid in Pharaoh's house, then what color was ancient Israel, ancient Israelites? Remember, Moses posed as a set up as an Egyptian, and I did a video on this a couple of days ago. Looks just like my stepfather. He's in the spiritual realm. And so, like I said before, we don't we don't own Google. We don't control Google. Evidence that proves black people are the biblical Israelites by Addison And these had to be most likely Israelites in captivity. So the great awakening is here. Okay, so with that, let me come back over here. So, like I said, the topic of Gentiles come up. A lot of precepts is going to come to your mind. A lot of precepts. Maccabees, the Old Testament, the New Testament. Got the Renaissance Christians like Vocab saying he pulls out scriptures in the New Testament. It says Gentiles are Greeks. Those are talking about Israelites, and they looked at them. They were looked upon as Gentiles because of what Antiochus Epiphanes did during the time of the Maccabees. So the future of you other nations, your future is slavery, straight up slavery. But Esau is going to catch it the worst. So if you are a Gentile, you better hope that you're not an Edomite Gentile. So let's go with the spirit. Like I said, let me do it this way. I'll go to pull out some scriptures in the Apocrypha. Oh, I want to say a few words on this too before I go on. Yeah, he told you to take the jump shot. Now what? And if you go to the actual video, you see what the so-called jump shot did. Anyway, let me do this. GMS has 100% truth. So this is dark. I was trying to think of a title, and I was watching the actual live stream of he had Apostle Zaquan on, which he knows something about the scriptures, but he doesn't have the truth. He doesn't have 100% truth, because when the deacon Hakar cornered him with questions, he was doing a lot of stuttering, a lot of rolling of the eyes, rubbing his head and kind of changing things. So he pretty much got cornered. So it reminded me of Art Linkletter from back in the day, talking to children, And so I said, dark. This is an dark Art Linkletter. Old Negroes say the damnedest things. And when you watch it, the topic is on the MOTB, and this guy came on Apostles Aquan, and he really looked. He did. You can see that he didn't know what he was talking about. So you watch this video, and then you watch the actual video. I covered a lot of it. Then they had another older Jake come on, and he came with some other madness. And I said, let me cut it off, man. Oh, then you had this guy, what is this, Charleston White. He kind of said what he had to say about the Israelites, but they asked him about the MOTB, and he said it's a cell phone, it's a computer. And Deacon said he's on the right track, but on the wrong train. Well, should be that's good, but he was on the wrong train he was on the right train on the wrong track. He had it kind of, but he was, you can say it that way. But these These people don't know. Either you know or you don't know. And if you know, you got to know 100% truth. That's what the Most High said in the scriptures. If the Most High didn't give us the 100% truth, that would make the Most High not the Most High. That would mean that the Most High don't exist, because he said the Most High is not a man that he should lie. He said that he was going to give the truth to the elect of Israel, to the chosen. And that means 100% truth, perfection. So if you only know parts of the scriptures, you might know 95% of it, then the Most High is not dealing with you. And it was proven with the video that was put up. It was proven with the video that was put up with he found his name is Apostle. What is that? Apostle Zaquan, which means elder, apostle elder. So anyway, let's go into this. So let's pull out some of these precepts. Tobit 13, verse 3. Confess him before the Gentiles, ye children of Israel, for he hath scattered us among them. So when you're speaking to Jake out there, you might be speaking to another nation that look like Jake. Or you might be speaking to an Israelite thinking that he's a Gentile. That's why the scripture said, let the wheat and the chaff grow together, and at the end it will be separated by the angels from the order of Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai. So you're going to have, a lot of you guys are not spiritual. Oh, he looks like a Edomite to me. Yeah, but he might be an Israelite. I grew up with a bunch of people. I'm thinking about a dude right now, a dude and his sister, and he became an actor. And this guy looked just like a Jake. And then years later, I found out that his father was an Edomite. And then I said, yeah, this guy was a little off. You know, he had like a little Edomite thing going, but he looked just like a Jake. But he was, his father looked like a straight up Edomite. But this guy was actually an Edomite. If his father is in fact an Edomite, or maybe he just looks like an Edomite. But he did some things that Jake wouldn't do. One of the things that he did was he became like openly, he became an open Mo. Now Jake doesn't do that. Jake, they're into that down low stuff because they know that what they're doing is wicked as hell, man. And you commit adultery, you don't do it in the open because you know it's wicked as hell. So he openly did it. He's like, F it. I said, man, that seals the deal. He's an Edomite. But he looked just like a woolly hair. He was about Gabar's complexion, maybe a little bit lighter, woolly hair. You just knew he was a Negro, but he was, in fact, the Edomite, a tear. So let's go to the next precept. I didn't plan anything. I'm just going. And another reason why I'm doing this topic too is kind of lambacking off of what the Apostle Ramlab had did a live stream. So I was watching some of it, and I said, well, let me do a video because he was dealing mostly with the Gentiles. So it says, 1 Maccabees 3, verse 10. It says, then Apollonius gathered the Gentiles together and a great host out of Samaria to fight against Israelites. What's this thing about Samaria? What happened in Samaria? Let me do this. The woman at the well, the Samaritan woman, you had Israelites out there. That's why it says, confess him before the Gentiles, ye children of Israel, for he has scattered us among them, the Gentiles. The woman at the well was a Gentile. And our Lord checked her on that. I want to check something here. All right, 2 Kings 17:1. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, began Hoshea, the son of Elah, to reign in Samaria over Israel 9 years. I'm sorry, let me do this. Fifth verse. Then the king of Assyria, which is Shalmaneser the fifth, came up throughout all the land and went up to Samaria and besieged it 3 years. In the ninth year of Hoshea, the king of Hoshea, the king of Assyria, took Samaria and carried Israel away into Assyria and placed them in Halah and in harbor by the river of Gozan and in the cities of the Medes. And the king of Assyria brought, and Shalmaneser was a title. Shalmaneser 1, Shalmaneser 2, Shalmaneser 4, which is his father. And his Shalmaneser the fourth son, the title of Shalmaneser the fifth, he took over what his father started. It's pretty much like Titus took over where Vespasian started. And the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Cutha and from Ahava and from Hamath and from Seraphaim and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. Now, as you read down, it says that there were lions sent among them, right? And it came to find out that they did not honor the laws that's in that land. So they sent one priest, and he didn't have sex with them. He didn't marry the woman and not like that. He just went over there, instructed them on the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. They began to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. And then the Most High put the spirit on the lions not to attack them anymore. And then, bring it up to date to St. John chapter 4 with the woman at the well. The woman at the well was not an Israelite. She was a Samaritan woman. She was, because it wasn't just Cushites. It was those people around about them. That's why you had that, return to the land of Israel, the so-called Ethiopian Philistia Jews, because they were part of those people. They were not the people. So anyway, let's come back over here. And see, Christians don't know that. They know, your average everyday Christian, they know John 3:16, maybe two other scriptures, and that's about it. So now they're getting into studying. See, what they can't deal with is Israelites that are well studied. We're into the scriptures. We know we go into the Greek, we go into the Hebrew, we go into maps, we go into names, we go into dates. We go into the secular history and we link the secular history with the scriptures. That's why you just can't look at somebody and say, oh, that's an Israelite, oh, that's an Edomite, oh, that's a Moabite. So now, who was in the land of Samaria at that time? Those other nations. This was around 150 BC. We're talking about the time of King Hoshea. We're talking about over 700 years BC. I'm sorry, let me do this. I'm going to read it in context. You really got to read the whole chapter. I may just jump up to the first chapter. I mean, first verse. First Maccabees 3, verses 8 to 11. Moreover, he got to read the whole chapter though. Moreover, he went through the cities of Judah, destroying the ungodly out of them. The ungodly were the other nations. The ungodly applies to Esau now, but when we were dealing with them other nations, they were all ungodly. They were without the Most High, and turning away wrath from Israel, so that he was renowned unto the uttermost part of the earth. And you know what I got to do? Let me do this. I got to go to the first verse. First Maccabees chapter 3. Then his son Judas called Maccabees rose up in his stead, and all his brethren helped, and so did all they that held with his father, and they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel, because they were putting them nations to flight. We were far better warriors than they were. So he got his people great honor and put on a breastplate as a giant, So now when you go back to Genesis chapter 6, when it says they were giants in the earth, men of renown, that's what it's talking about. Like you got Michael Jordan as a giant in the NBA, right? Kobe, Shaq, LeBron James. They don't look, hey, we talking about 6'6" and up. Shaq is 7'1". That's considered a giant, man. What does he wear? Size 22 shoes? You got to go to a special store to buy them shoes, man. Will you ever go to a store that has a shoe department and it'll go from 9, 9.5, 8.5, 7.5. The biggest shoe you can get is 12s, 10.5, whatever, 11s. Oh, well, wait a minute. Let me go to the 20 size 22 wides. The man was a giant. Meaning, like Floyd Mayweather is a giant in boxing. It's not so much stature. It's about greatness too. And so he got his people great honor, the Israelites, and that never changed, and put on a breastplate as a giant and gird his warlike harness about him, and he made battles protecting the host. The hosts, who are the hosts? It was talking about the Israelites. We are the hosts of the Most High. The host means armies as well. Ezekiel 37 said we're going to stand up like a great army with his sword. The sword that we use now is the scriptures. In his acts, he was like a lion, and like a lion's whelp roaring for his prey. For he pursued the wicked. Who's the wicked? Esau and the other nations, but now it's Esau, and sought them out. And when we were dealing with the Philistines, they were the wicked, they were the ungodly, they were the uncircumcised, and burnt up those that vexed his people, the Israelites. There's another reference where he burnt them in the towers. They would be up in the towers and they would burn the towers down. Give me a second. Okay. Fourth verse. In his acts, he was like a lion, and like a lion's whelp roaring for his prey. For he pursued the wicked and sought them out and burned up those Edomites and those other nations that vex his people. Wherefore the wicked shrunk for fear of him, and all the workers of iniquity were troubled, because salvation prospered in his hand. He grieved also many kings and made Jacob glad with his acts, and his memorial is blessed forever. Moreover, he went through the cities of Judah, Yahweh, destroying the ungodly out of them and turning away wrath from Israel, so that he was renowned unto the uttermost part of the earth. That, in other words, as far as those kingdoms, it wasn't talking about America. Talking about that region of the earth. And he received unto him such as were ready to perish. Then Apollonius, this is a whole nother subject, Apollonius, gathered the Gentiles together, and a great host out of what? Out of Samaria. So who was in Samaria? Go back to 2 Kings, the 17th chapter, to fight against Israel. So what the hell you mean the Most High came for other nations? Most High never came for other nations. They always been our enemies, and they're all going into captivity. If you're an Edomite, vocab alone, you're going into captivity. Better hope you're a Hamite or Ishmaelite or something. Which thing when Judas or Yahweh the Yath perceived, he went forth to meet him, and so he smote him and slew him. Many also fell down slain, but the rest fled. Micah 5 and 7. Most High gonna put that fear spirit back into Jake. And the prophets, the spiritual men, the elect, we're not gonna be out there fighting. We're gonna be prophesying. That's our job. That's our only job. We put on this earth to prophesy. Wherefore Judas took their spoils, and Apollonius sword also, and therewith he fought all his life long. Judas Maccabees, Judas Maccabees, Yahweh Maccabeus, the Most High bred him to be a fighter from birth. he was set like not Solomon, Samson. Now when Sharon, a prince of the army of Syria. Now remember, Antiochus Epiphanes was also known as a Syrian. He wasn't a Syrian. He came out of that region called Syria because the Edomites took that land. He was actually an Edomite. Heard say that Jehoiada had gathered unto him a multitude and company of the faithful keyword. That's why you just can't be a regular guy and be in a camp. You gotta dedicate your life. What was it saying in the 12th verse? Wherefore Jehoiada of Judas took their spoils, and Apollonios, which he killed, swore it all. He took his, so he said, let me take that sword. Let me take what he got. Let me take his sword. And therewith he fought all his life long. So when you come into this truth, you can't turn around. You can't go back into the world. You can't take breaks. So you guys that are in this, and you hear me, you watch my videos, you guys, especially a lot of you guys from the old One West that kind of came up with the YouTube, YouTube era, and you started going out there. A lot of you guys don't even come out no more. A lot of you guys ain't even out there. The main people that you see out there is IUIC, ISUPK, GMS, and then you got Sakari that sprung from GMS, the leader of Sakari. And then you have others that one way or another watch the videos, never joined the camp, kind of put their own thing together, which a lot of the Most High is dealing with them too, if they're teaching the truth. Now, when Sirah, the prince of the army of Syria, heard say that Jehoiada had gathered unto him a multitude and company of the faithful to go out with him to war. Who's the faithful? The Israelites that were willing to fight. He said, I will get me a name and honor in the kingdom, for I will go fight with Jehoiada and them that are with him who despise the king's commandment. Who was the king? Antiochus Epiphanes. A lot of them sold out. Read a couple more verses. So he made him ready to go up, and there went with him a mighty host of the ungodly to help him, and to be avenged of the children of Israel. Remember, they were the ungodly. Those were the Edomites first and foremost. But there were other nations involved too. Anyway, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you can read the whole chapter. So now let's come back. Addition of Esther 10 verse 10. Therefore hath he made two lots, one for the people of the Most High, and another for all the Gentiles. There's a separation there. Now you can read the context or you can read the whole thing. I read the context. I'm not going to go into it. But what precept should come to mind? Well, Matthew's 10, 5 and 6 should come to mind, but another one should come to mind as well, which is Revelation 11. Different lot, different place. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood saying, rise and measure the temple of the Most High and the altar, the temple of the Most High, us. 1 Corinthians 3, verse 19, thereabouts. And them that worship therein. The ones that worship therein are the elect to Israel. But the court which is without the temple, the outer court, leave out and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. And in the kingdom, there's going to be an outer court where the Gentiles can come in, but they can't come into the inner court. Only the Israelites can come into the inner court. And that was like that back then too. Now, when the Apostle Paul brought the Gentiles, the Greeks, into the inner court, they beat him up. They wanted to kill him. And this officer, saved him. He used the status of a Roman citizen because they were looking at those Israelites that were being called Gentiles. These are actually Gentiles, man. They not circumcised. They got tattoos on them. They got funny haircuts. Some of them got long dreadlocks and long beards. And they dress funny. Where's their fringes at? They're eating all kind of abominable things. But the Apostle Paul was opening the door to the Israelite Gentiles. That's why he said, I'm an apostle of the Gentiles. I magnify my office. So it says, so this right here is talking about the actual Gentiles. And the holy city shall be tread underfoot 40 and 2 months. That's literal because they're over there now. And that's literal. Well, you can say it's literal too, because we are the holy city as well. So they basically their foot is in our neck, figuratively. And this also represents us, the prophets, the elect. We're in sackcloth. We're not wearing royal garments. That's why our Lord said what he said concerning John. When they saw John, he didn't look all, these glowing garments. He looked, well, best word, he looked like a bum. He was homeless. And he had like a meager garment on him, he was living rough. So the Lord said, what do you expect to see? A man dressed up like a king? The prophets were going to come, floating on a cloud with wings on their back. So now let's come back over here. So there's going to be a separation in the kingdom. Yes, the Gentiles will be in the kingdom, but they're going to be under us. They're going to be our slaves. They're going to be subject unto us. But they're going to learn the law, statutes, and commandments. So are they going to be blessed? Yeah, they're going to be blessed to know the laws. So let's look at 1 Maccabees 5, verse 15. And said day of Ptolemaeus, which is the king of Egypt, the Edomites that took over Egypt, and of Tyrus and Sidon and all Galilee of the Gentiles are assembled together against us to consume us. I'm not going to read this whole thing. It said Tyre and Sidon, right? And all of Galilee. These were other nations that gathered together to come against Israel. 2 Maccabees 6, verse 9. Oh, okay. Let me start at 6. Should take you to 6. It says 7. Let me start at 7. And in the day of the king's birth, every month king's birthday, were brought by a bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices. And when the fast of Bacchus, that's a whole nother topic, the Dionysus. Now, when you go back to the history of Bacchus and Dionysus, they had to get a tattoo of a leaf, which was a mark, was kept. The Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus carrying ivy. And that was a symbol that you worship Bacchus, which was like a brand that they put on you, like the sororities, the fraternities. You Jake into that black Greek stuff. They have to get a branded, and it's painful too. That goes back to the Greeks. But back then, it was a brand of a metal piece that was in the shape of an ivy leaf. That's where you go into the secular history. It said, moreover, there went, and all these Jakes that are into these fraternities and these sororities, those were the ones whose foreparents they submitted to the will of Antiochus Epiphanes. They said they're going to follow the Greek way. The whole Olympics is a Greek custom. Jake that's getting to that's a part of the Olympics. They have to do certain things, man. They have to believe in the system. You actors, you musicians among Jake, when that charagma come out, you're gonna have to take it in order for you to stay on that level of celebrity. Moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by the suggestion of Ptolemy against the Jews, that they should observe the same fashions and be partakers of their sacrifices. Another thing, you had Israelites that followed the Egyptian way of life that the Ptolemies pushed, and then on the other half, you had Israelite following the Greek lifestyle. That they should observe the same fashion and be partakers of their sacrifices. And whoso would conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles, that's why we call Gentiles in the New Testament. That's why Cornelius was called a Gentile, should be put to death. Then might a man have seen the present misery. For there were 2 women brought who had circumcised their children, whom, and our women were stronger back then, whom when they had openly led round about the city, they were showing their children, look, I circumcised my child. The babes handing at their breasts, they cast them down headlong from the wall. They killed them. And I believe when you go back to First Maccabees, they were even hanging the baby, killing the mothers and hanging the babies. But this man is not. You can't call him a devil. Just come on back. Look, this is the nature of the devil. Tobit 1 verse 10. And when we were carried away captive to Nineveh, all my brethren and those that were of my kindred did eat of the bread of the Gentiles. Our bread shall what? Be defiled among the Gentiles. First Maccabees 2 verse 12, just reading this list. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory, is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. The word profane means outside the temple, because they were supposed to be outside the temple. So they went in the temple. That happened during Vespasian and Titus, when they raided the treasury. They built that arch in the name of Titus, the general, which became the Caesar. His brother built it up, and that's still standing to this very day in Rome. First Maccabees 4 verse 60. At that time also they built up the Mount Zion with high walls and strong towers round about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down as they had done before. So they built that wall. Now they say the wall that's up there now is that wall that they built. That's a whole nother subject, a whole nother topic. First Maccabees 6, verse 53. Yet at the last, their vessels being without victuals, food, for that it was the seventh year, and they in Judea, Yahweh, that were delivered from the Gentiles, the other nations, and eaten up the residue of the store. Makes me think about King David eating the showbread that was only for the priests, but he was hungry. Most High had mercy on him. Wisdom of Solomon 14, verse 11. Got a few more verses. Therefore, even upon the idols of the Gentiles shall there be a visitation, because it in the creature and the creature of the Most High, they are become an abomination and stumbling blocks to the souls of men, and a snare to the feet of the unwise. Now, that makes me think about Vocab Malone, and the people that he got with him are Israelites. Those people, when he rolled up on the camp, he rolls up with other Israelites. You got to have an Israelite with him. So these are these same people, same spirit, man. And they're all going to be put to death, the men and the women. And read that again. Wisdom of Solomon 14, verse 11. Therefore, even upon the idols of the Gentiles shall there be a visitation, because in the creature of the Most High, they are become an abomination and stumbling blocks to the souls of men, and a snare to the feet of the unwise. They're the unwise. I'll read a couple more. The nation of Israel, the princes, the priests, and the Levites have not put away from them the strange people of the land, nor the pollution of the Gentiles, to wit. And I believe this links up with Nehemiah. Of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, and the Moabites, Egyptians, and Edomites. So you had Jake mingling their, mingling among these other nations, and one nation was with the Egyptians, the Canaanites, and you had a lot of Israelite men that were putting their seed in these women of these other nations. So a lot of these, like I said, you're gonna have a lot of Israelites coming out from among with people that look like Edomites, Moabites. We say Bruce Lee, we believe Bruce Lee got to be a Jake. Egyptians, Canaanites. Second Maccabees 14, verse 38. For in the former times, when they mingled not themselves with the Gentiles, he had been accused of Judaism and did boldly jeopard his body and life with all vehemency for the religion of the Jews. Now, you know what I got to do? Let me go to the context of that. Remember, you had Edomites that were converted to follow the law, statutes, and commandments, right? 36 verse. Therefore now, O holy Lord, Lord of all holiness, keep this house ever undefiled. What defiles the house? When you let other nations, the seed of the other nations come in. That's the men, which lately was cleansed and stopped every unrighteous mouth. Now was there accused unto Nicanor and Razis, one of the elders of Jerusalem, a lover of his countrymen, and a man of very good report, who for his kindness was called a father of the Jews. For in the former times, when they mingled not themselves with the Gentiles or other nations, he had been accused of Judaism, and did. Now I believe Judaism was to make the people follow the laws. What is that? Is that Esther? Yeah, that's Esther 8. It said many of the people became Jews. Now that word goes back to the word to be Judaized, to follow the laws. That didn't mean because you follow the laws doesn't make you an Israelite. Hey, if you worship Quas, the god of the Edomites, doesn't make you an Edomite. And did boldly jeopard his body and life when with all vehemency for the religion of the Jews. So Nicanor, willing to declare the hate that he bare unto the Jews, went above 500 men of war to take him. Nicanor and or Nicanor. That's a whole nother lesson. That's a whole nother lesson. Nicanor, the day of Nicanor, the day of Simon. IUIC goes into that a lot. That goes into that history. Let me try this. This is also on the Gentiles. First Maccabees 2, verse 46 to 49. And what children soever they found within the coast of Israel, uncircumcised, those they circumcised valiantly. They pull the thing out, cut the foreskin, because that's a covenant that was given to Abraham. And that covenant, by the way, in the kingdom of heaven, every nation is going to be circumcised on the 8th day. That was one covenant that was given to all people. The new covenant, the fulfillment of Jeremiah 31:31 is only for Israel. But ultimately, you can say it's going to be given to the other nations because they're going to have to learn the laws. They're going to have to read, study, and be told what laws to keep. But we're going to automatically have it in our bodies, in our spirit. They pursued also after the proud men, and the work prepared in their hand. So they recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles, the other nations, and out of the hand of kings. Neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. Now, when the time drew near that Matthias should die, he said unto his sons, now hath pride and rebuke gotten strength, meaning these other nations, mainly Edomites, and the time of destruction and the wrath of indignation. See, now what you got to do is really read the whole chapter. You really got to get the understanding of Maccabees, you really got to read chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, to put it all together. And Matthias was a father of Judas Iscariot, because the first chapter they forced him. You got to keep this law. You got to do this. You got to eat pork. Can't circumcise your kid. You can't call yourself a Israelite. Oh, you know what? Did I finish reading that? I'm sorry. Let me do this. I think I went over a precept that I bear me for a minute. Maybe I read it. I read the first verse. Okay, so it says 8 verse, second Maccabees 6 verse 7 to 10. Moreover, 8 verse, moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathens by the suggestion of Ptolemy. Like I think I did read it. And be partakers of their sacrifices. And you know what? Let me do this. Let me do this. The main point is the 6th verse. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts or to profess himself to at all to be a Jew. 9th verse. And whosoever would not conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles should be put to death. Then, then might a man have seen the present miseries, because there was a lot of children being put to death. You know, you got to go into the whole book, the first Maccabees, second Maccabees. It's a whole history to it. But all these precepts, when did the Most High ever accepted the Gentiles? He never accepted the Gentiles. I mean, we know that through the scriptures, but here we're reading it out of the Apocrypha. And this is another reason why Vocab says what he says about the Apocrypha, because the Apocrypha doesn't say anything good about the other nations. I read that. All right, first Ezra 8, verse 69. The nation of Israel, the princes, the priests, and the Levites have not put away from themselves the strange people of the land, nor the pollution of the Gentiles, the actual other nations. So I read that, and one of the main nations were Edomites. So we mingle with the Edomites. What Israel did in war, they would preserve the woman, preserve the woman baby, and the women of a certain age that was not married. They killed women that were married, and they killed the men off, and they would kill the little baby boys off, and they would just take the woman. They would take the girl, might be 7 years old, give her a couple of years to mature, and then go into it. So you go back into the ancient world, you had Israelites that were dark skinned and Israelites that were medium brown and lighter skin. And this is a vast history, man. Did I read this? Let me read this again. Second Maccabees 14, verse 38. I think I read this. For in the former times, when they mingled not themselves with the Gentiles, he had been accused of. Okay, I read that. And I read this. All right, second Maccabees 6, verse 4. I'm gonna start from the very top. Not long ago, not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens which was an Israelite, proven when you go to Acts, the 17th chapter, when Paul encountered the men of Athens, those were Israelites. Those were what you would consider the conscious community. Because Israel not being with the Most High, they had to look for a Most High. That's why when you go to Acts 17, it tells you a dedication to the unknown God, because they knew the philosophers back there, the Stoics and the Epicureans, they knew there was a God. They just didn't know his name. So the Lord said, I'm gonna give you the name of the Most High, of Yahweh B'Shem Shai. Not long after, the king sent an old man of Athens, which was an Israelite, proving that you had Israelites living in Athens, Greece, and outside of Israel. That goes back to the Old Testament, to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers and not to live after the laws of the Most High. This man from Athens was an Israelite that was a Gentile-minded Israelite. And to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of what? Of Jupiter. Jupiter, by the way, is really, this is a Greek empire. So they use Jupiter and Zeus. Jupiter is the Roman Zeus. It should really be Zeus, but they were that's why, look, when you go into the history, sometimes you'll say the Greco-Roman Empire, because a lot of the things that the Romans did was adopted from the Greeks, because they were the same people. They were Edomites. It says, and to pollute also the temple of Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter, Olympus, or Zeus, which, by the way, that was a concept of a god that was set up by a Jake, because Zeus and Jupiter are, the figures of them are so-called black. They look like Israelites. You got a statue in the Vatican City of Peter, but that's not Peter. That's Pater, which is Jupiter, which is Zeus. So Roman Catholicism goes back to the ancient Roman spiritualism and the ancient Greek, because they had their religion. They had their, when a Caesar became Caesar or emperor, he was inaugurated, just like the presidents today. When you look up the word inaugur, it means you are a fortune teller. You're a fortune teller. You can see the future. Going back to that, the Greek way of life, you had the what do you call it? The oracles of Delphi. You had there would be white birds, I believe doves, and they would fly in a certain pattern. They had so-called prophets that they would look up and say, this is going to happen and that's going to happen, based upon the way that those doves are flying around, white birds, whatever. So there's a lot of history, man. You go crazy for making them many books. There's no end, and much study is the weariness of the flesh. That's why you can't read all these books and go to the history and read and read and read. It says, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and call it the temple of Jupiter Olympus, and that in Gerizim, of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the place. The coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people. That's why the Most High has to kill most of our people, because they're gonna die with that Baptist, Methodist, Islam. Oh, in Islam, the Most High is gonna just destroy these jakes in the Islam, because that's a what is it? Seared iron. Seared in their spirit. For the temple was filled with riot and raveling by the Gentiles, the other nations who dallied with harlots. So they had hoes up in there and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places. They defiled it. That's what this devil does. The devil's not going to do the right thing. What is that? Isaiah 26:10. in the land of uprightness. And besides that, brought in things that were not lawful. The altar also was filled with profane things. They put a pig up there. That's how they defiled it too, which the law forbiddeth. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath or ancient days or ancient fasts, or to profess himself to at all to be a Jew. We're going to keep a fast coming next week. Next so-called Sunday night. So let me come over here. I was mostly just bringing out precepts. Isaiah 26. And 10, let favor be showed to the wicked, yet will he not learn righteousness. In the land of uprightness, they're in the land of Israel. Are they doing the right thing? No. Will he deal unjustly and will not behold the majesty of the Lord? They don't believe in the majesty of the Lord. They just want to say, we're the people and we're in that land. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom. Mostly what I did was I went through these precepts, just read it and just spoke on it. But you can clearly see, man, that the Lord is not dealing with these Gentiles. I mean, we know these scriptures. Matter of fact, let me just do this real quick. Gentiles. I'm just going to the New Testament. It'll happen. Gentiles. 129 times and 121 verses. Sometimes the word Gentile means another nation, but when it has to do with salvation, it's talking about Israelites. Right. And then Matthew 12, verse 21, and in his name shall the Gentiles trust. Those are Israelites. Cornelius was one of them. The Gentiles right here, talking about other nations. A light to lighten the Gentiles and the glory of thy people Israel. Who are the Gentiles? Israelites. Then, and I'm going to close on this. Then said the Jews among themselves, whither will he go that we shall not find him? Will he go unto the disperse among the Gentiles? And he did go to the Americas and teach the Gentiles. Gentiles and Gentiles. To disperse among the Gentiles, the other nations, to teach the Gentiles, the Israelites. Let me do this. Let me go to the NLT real quick. See what the NLT says. The Jewish leaders were puzzled by this statement. Where is the planning? Where is he planning to go? They asked, is he thinking of leaving the country and going to the Jews in other lands? Maybe, wait a minute, maybe he will even teach the Greeks. Is he thinking of leaving the country and going to the Jews in other lands? Maybe he will even teach the Greeks. And who were the Greeks? Those are Israelites that didn't know that they were Israelites. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom.